The United States is going to hit its debt limit today at some point. Now, the Treasury is able to do certain things, they call them extraordinary measures, to prevent the disaster that will come if Congress doesn't eventually act within the next period of time. And so it's kind of a stalling moment as we await the continued negotiations, because the Republican Party demands spending cuts, and they're using the debt ceiling needing to be raised as a chance to negotiate for those spending cuts. Now, as we talked about in the past, that sounds interesting, reasonable. Oh, the debt ceiling needs to be raised, they're demanding spending cuts, what's wrong with that? Well, raising the debt ceiling is not allocating new spending. The spending has already been allocated. That's been decided on. This is just saying, are we going to pay our bills that we already committed to? And of course we should do that. If you have a problem with spending, that needs to happen when you're actually negotiating about the spending, as I will continue to say, as simple as it is. But in regard to the debt limit being hit, here's this being reported on NBC.
We turn to the high-stakes showdown there over the debt ceiling. The government on the brink again of hitting its borrowing limit. It's prompting the Treasury Department to begin using, quote, extraordinary measures to continue paying the nation's bills. And in the meantime, Republicans are demanding spending cuts before any deal can be reached. And of course, this all impacts you and your wallet. Here to walk us through it is Brian Chung, NBC's business reporter. Brian, good morning. Stop me if you've seen this movie before. Let's go back to basics, though. The debt ceiling. This is not about new spending. We're not writing a blank check here to do a bunch of new spending. This is about spending that both parties have already done, and now it's time to pay the bills.
Yes.
We turn to the high-stakes.
Exactly right. And every time this topic comes up, that needs to be clarified. So this actually is serious, and I've said kind of in a general sense that there are repercussions to the debt ceiling not being raised, and if it is not raised in time, let's dive into what some of those repercussions would be, as is laid out here. The government, number one, government obligations such as Social Security or Medicare disbursements could be at risk. Buying a home, car, or credit card borrowing could get more expensive. Stock prices could sink, threatening companies' bottom lines. The government could default on its debt, triggering a recession, job losses, and income disruptions for millions. Even if the debt ceiling is raised in time, Americans could feel financial pain. And this is from Bank Rate, those 5 items. And there are so many different elements of this, we can't discuss it all here, but that gives you a sense. The most notable being, well, there's many, Social Security, Medicare, but also just we could cause, because the debt ceiling isn't raised in time and we default on our debt, a recession and real economic pain for individuals, and they wouldn't be getting their benefits. It would be a disaster. And so the Republican Party is really playing with fire for nothing, for honestly what I see. They would disagree, but as a political show. Quickly here from CNBC, the Treasury Department started taking so-called extraordinary measures to keep paying the federal government's bills as the U.S. hit its debt limit Thursday. In a letter addressed to House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, Yellen said the Treasury will suspend new investments in the Civil Service Retirement and Disability Fund and the Postal Service Retiree Health Benefits Fund from Thursday until June 5th, 2023. But she warned both moves are subject to considerable uncertainty if Congress does not pass a bill to increase the $31.4 trillion debt ceiling, and it continues. But anytime you hear the fear-mongering about the debt ceiling, the runaway spending, just remember 2 things. Number one, as I have repeated and will continue to repeat, this is not the time to debate spending, because this isn't about new spending. This is not what we're going to spend going forward. It's what we have spent, and we're just paying our bills, okay? And so this is when you pay your bills. And then with new spending, the negotiation should absolutely happen, and that's what Congress is, of course, supposed to be doing day to day. But then remember, and I went into more detail on the David Pakman Show when I guest hosted today, this fact, over the last 4 decades, it's actually been Republican presidents that have jacked up the deficit more than Democratic presidents. And just like we see with the economy, the branding message from Republicans of we're the fiscally responsible and better for economy people just isn't true. That's not what the facts bear out. And so when you see Republicans on television saying the debt, just remember they say it to attack Democrats, not because they have an actual principle. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, if you're watching on YouTube, of course, and it's below the video.